So obviously there's a lot of conversations today that include the energy sector, and I think it shows that it's very pivotal that the energy sector is working effectively if we're going to see the expansion that we're looking from an economic development perspective. There's definitely a lot happening in the sector, and technology is changing rapidly, which opens obviously a raft of opportunities, not only to electricity itself, but obviously for that broader expansion options. Minister McTiernan nicely pointed earlier about the broader Pilbara grid, and I think that's something to watch for the future, as well as Rick Newman talking about the opportunity for electric vehicles being supported by large-scale generation and distribution. So I'm just going to provide a bit of an overview from Horizon Power's perspective of what we're doing to adapt to that changing environment. So a little bit about us, as Kitty explained, we've got a very large service area. We cover the entire state other than that little corner of the dark blue there, which is the Southwest Interconnected System. So in terms of customer numbers, 48,000 customers over 2.3 million square kilometres. So it obviously encourages us to think very differently in terms of the way we service those areas. So we've got a large mix of technology within our system. So you can see that the Pilbara area has got a large-scale, highly efficient gas-fired generation, and it's a very centralised system. So it's connected between Port Hedland and Karratha by a high-voltage transmission line. And then we have a mix of different types of systems covering from Columbia all the way up at the top down to Esperance at the bottom. And we have quite a high portion of renewables within our system. So you have wind, we've got solar, and we've got hydro within that mix. So the electricity industry is definitely changing, and we like to keep our finger on the pulse of what our customers are after. There's been quite a change in recent themes when we undertake customer satisfaction surveys, and it's really about this notion of having knowledge and empowerment in the way that they manage their own energy. They want more choice and control over how they use their energy, and they want to know how much their electricity bills will be. They also want to take advantage of solar energy to reduce their power bills and be more energy efficient, and we obviously want to help them on this path. You just saw our strategy video, so I won't labour on this point other than the fact in that bottom right-hand corner you can see this notion of customer convergence. And I think it's really important to note that the customer of the future is also a producer, or we call them a prosumer. And that is definitely the way that we are scoping our business to ensure that we actually meet those needs and expectations in the future. So in response, we're essentially looking at a new way of energy production. So we're recasting the traditional supply chain. So looking at 6 emerging functions required for this, the distributed energy resource that was referenced in that video. Small scale modular generation capacity. I think it allows us to be more responsive to our load requirements. I'll talk a little bit later about the new power station in Port Hedland, but it's very rare that you want to go and put in a very large scale generation. So this way it's obviously a lot more responsive to your needs. Ensuring intelligent system control, so developing technology to make sure that the way that power station may interface with the grid. High penetration of renewables and energy storage, and again we're talking about some of the technology required to ensure that we don't see anything like we saw obviously in South Australia. We want to make sure that is measured and it's managed effectively to ensure stability of the system. Standalone power systems, so assessing each situation on its merits about how you actually supply power to different towns, and providing for a multi-flow network. And that's obviously when it comes to the future of what energy supplies looks like, you need to ensure that it's a two-way street. So we want to offer our customers flexibility with grid solutions and standalone power stations and a combination of these products. It's all with a view of creating choice and putting downward pressure on energy costs. So essentially we want to do what we already do, we want to do it really well, and that's for the benefit of customers in the areas that we operate. In the future as well, Horizon Power is working through what it looks like in terms of customer service products around solar. So towards the end of this year, we're hoping to be able to play a little bit more in that space because we understand it's definitely where the future lies. So as I said before, our customers' wants are changing, so we're trying to build a future strategy to meet their needs. Some of the things that we're doing at the moment is we're breaking down some of the legislative barriers and also technical barriers. To do that, we're focusing on developing research, so technology research and development. Modular generation, as I said, reducing capital costs and also allowing a bit more of effective management of the peak with more of the modular and mobile units. And you can be more responsive then to the changes in your market. We're looking at democratisation of energy. I mean, I think this is something from a social perspective that's really interesting to observe, and we're certainly in a position to be able to respond to that. And looking at how we get that high distribution of levels of renewable and storage within the system, but ensuring, as I said, ensuring the security of energy supplies. So to do that, we've got intelligent system and consumer services, which sort of is the voltage and frequency control that we can undertake, system resilience, and it's underwritten by some of the technology that's already been deployed in our area, such as the advanced meters. So we're really looking at how can we look at innovation and energy management solutions. Some of the other things that we're looking at as well as that multi-utility future. We've got a couple of projects underway at the moment. RASP is one of them, remote area service provisions, and Rottnest Island, which is looking at a power and water combination, because we certainly believe that there's synergies and opportunities for efficiency by creating a multi-utility provider. So some of the Pilbara-specific things that we're doing, it's fantastic to see that Onslow is a bit of a test case for some of the new technology and new approaches to energy provision that we're looking at the moment. So the Onslow Distributed Energy Resource Microgrid, essentially it's going to be the Australia's largest distributed energy resource. It's half of the town's electricity needs are going to be serviced by renewable energy sources. And much of this tech will obviously be proven in Onslow as a smaller test case, and then it can obviously be deployed on a larger scale at a later date. So construction is currently underway for an 8 megawatt predominantly gas-fired power station in Onslow, commissioned early next year. Stage 2 of that project is including a centralised solar plant. So that's a 1 megawatt centralised solar plant, and then about a 1 megawatt hour battery storage, which is equivalent to about a 40-foot sea container. This part is subject to financial investment, but it's looking investment decision, but it's looking very, very likely. Similar quantities of solar is actually going to be deployed throughout the town on the roofs of buildings, and that's a really new, interesting way of us looking at trying to meet some of the energy needs. And it obviously requires us to interface quite closely, and I know that Horizon Power has been working closely with Kerry in the Shire of Ashburton around how that's going to work. Another thing that we're trying to do in terms of improving efficiency of our power stations is managing what's called spinning reserve. So spinning reserve is essentially having to have a generator idling in anticipation for a potential trip of another generator, so it can instantly uptake the load as opposed to tripping the system and causing power outages. This obviously is, anyone can understand that that's not the most effective way of doing it. So what we're looking at is have in Carnarvon deployed a large-scale battery installation instead that acts as the spinning reserve. It's not that exciting, I don't think, when you're talking about sea containers, but from us energy geeks, I think it is really quite interesting. It's about 500 batteries that have been deployed. They were undertaken in about April this year. And we've been really pleased to see how well they've rapidly discharged when they've required on the demand of uptake. So some of the benefits, again, is optimising spinning reserve, saving fuel and engine run hours, and giving added flexibility to deal with a raft of challenges that we see coming in the future. It's modelled that apparently some of the locations we'd be able to use batteries for this purpose might save us around $400,000 per annum. So it's not small scale in terms of our overall spend. Horizon Power is regularly looking for opportunities to adapt, and the terrible fires that occurred in 2015 in Esperance was one of those opportunities. We had quite large-scale damage to our infrastructure down there, and there was those questions asked of us of will we go and replace or will we innovate, and we chose to look at a couple of the locations at Innovating, which was that's the installation in this case of solar panels on remote sites, which generates the electricity during the day, and then battery storage at night time during overcast periods, and then a diesel generator for backup. So this was rather than replacing large-scale infrastructure that was going to service a small number of customers, we asked ourselves, what is another alternative that we could look at? And this was one that's certainly proven to be, has been really beneficial. Such a, reliable and clean energy source, why wouldn't you look for that where possible? Less affected by outages caused by power line damages such as cyclones, floods and bushfires. The customer has access to information about the performance of their own systems as well. There's no poles or wires on a customer's property, which minimises hazards and means more effective land use, particularly in the farming areas and locations such as Esperance. It's modular, so the design creates flexibility in the way we want to change to meet the energy needs. And fault response and operating and maintenance services in this instance is still maintained by Horizon Power. Our customers, so obviously knowledge is power from their perspective as well as for ours. Earlier last year, we undertook a pilot project in Port Hedland. It was about 400 customers that we asked to participate. They volunteered to participate in a process that looked at a different way that we could provide energy to those customers in the way that the billing would occur. And this is more based on a mobile phone plan where you choose the size of the plan that you want, and then you moderate your needs to stay within your cap. And this is just a way that we wanted to test how customers respond to that. We earlier this year won an Innovation Award from the Clean Energy Council. This one has been a first for Australia in terms of this type of pricing plan, and it helps us we're looking to obviously our vision of being a low cost and a sustainable energy supplier. We're also rolling that out on a larger scale towards the end of this year, including customers in Port Hedland and in Broome. And once we tested if the appetite is there and whether it's responsive to our customer needs, then we'll look at what the opportunities are for expanding beyond that. Now, I think I've got a video that's going to play which gives some of the feedback from our customers who participated in that process. Oh, good.
People are struggling with their electricity bills.
I always dread getting our electricity bill.
Everybody is apprehensive when they're opening a bill because it's always a lottery of what it's going to be.
The energy industry is undergoing an unprecedented period of change. We need a new approach. Horizon Power has developed power plans, a new way of charging for electricity similar to a mobile phone plan. Power plans offer choice, control, and better value. Power plans help you to budget. They present opportunities to save, and the free app will help you track and control your use. Power plans offer greater flexibility, and you can save with solar. So how do power plans work? Well, we will recommend the right plan for you. Most of your bill is a fixed amount for the year, which you pay in 12 equal monthly payments. Plus, you pay for every unit of electricity used, but at a much cheaper rate. You can earn up to $300 in discount if you stay under your peak allowance. The discount is applied to your bill at the end of the 12-month contract. Customers like the idea of power plans as a budgeting tool.
I think if mobile style plans were considered for electricity usage, I think members of the community would find it useful. It'd be a helpful household budgeting tool.
It'd certainly help work out your household budget a lot better than what we do at the moment. And there's no surprises at the end of the month.
Knowledge is power.
Power Plans has an app to help customers track their use.
Being able to monitor your own power usage, whereas up until now, you've never had that apart from looking at your bills.
Customers are willing and able to change their behaviour to drop a plan.
The air conditioning, we now only run the one unit through the day, and then no other air cons are allowed on until after 8 o'clock at night. But I think it just all comes down to becoming a habit now of everyday living.
So supplementing your aircon with fans is actually less power to run, so we started running that as well.
For instance, during peak time, I don't really need the hot water system to be chugging away, so that automatically gets turned off at the beginning of peak. And similarly, so does the electric car.
Customers can save by using solar and battery. Since having the solar PV system with battery storage installed, this business's electricity bill has reduced dramatically. And this is without having to make changes to the way they operate. Power plans offer a new, fairer and more sustainable way of charging for electricity, giving customers more control over their electricity costs. Power plans can be a win-win for customers and Horizon Power.
Every industry around the country is looking at different ways of doing things. We've had a bit of a look at the way Horizon Power in Western Australia is looking at this. Some of the things they're doing are at the forefront. how this is going to work, in particular, not just the way in which tariffs and electricity are structured, but the way in which it's communicated to the customer is very important. And that's where I think the things that Horizon Power is doing will inform a lot of people about the best way, not just to adapt to technology, but to think about the way that's communicated to consumers to get the best outcome.
The community's ready for change, but they don't know how to embrace it. So somebody's got to show leadership, and what I've seen so far, I think is really, really good steps.
If I miss out on my Freddo Frog, I'm blaming that video. So some customer tools that we look at that we also are deploying at the moment. This isn't really new age stuff, but it's obviously something that really empowers our customers to be able to look and control their own energy consumption patterns. So the HAP, Horizon Power app, real-time usage, so hopefully no more bill shock for customers, and they can see their daily usage consumption patterns, and they can change their behaviours accordingly. And online My Account, so a customer can view their bills, they can change their details and move in and move out all online now. Back to some of the broader stuff. Minister McTiernan obviously pointed quite nicely to this concept of a broader Pilbara interconnected network. There's significant opportunities that exist obviously for expansion and also enabling things like large-scale solar projects that have been spoken about today. So the image up on the screen there just shows that there is infrastructure existing in the Pilbara, various different owners, and it's all connected via the North West Interconnected System. Essentially, we're saying that better coordination and shared infrastructure, it just makes sense. It just makes sense. And it not only opens up opportunities for things like large-scale solar, but it will definitely result in a lower levelised cost of energy across the region, which can only be good news story. So hopefully we can see some good effective communication and coordination across that front for the betterment of the entire Pilbara. And my final slide is talking about the Pilbara power generation. I spoke before about all these different types of systems that we have within Horizon Power's portfolio, but the Pilbara still has large-scale generation because of the volume of customers and the consumption that we see in the Pilbara, because obviously we have quite a lot of industrials in the Pilbara as well. So a highly centralised large-scale generation is still the most effective service provision model for the Pilbara. Just recently, this month, still in August, we commissioned a new 150 megawatt power station. So that power station is the most efficient now in the Pilbara because we have combined cycles. So it's gas-fired with combined cycle unit included in there, so it makes it highly efficient. It's built, owned and operated by TransAlta. So 110 megawatts of that is for Horizon Power's customers, and then 40 megawatts is with FMG. So this is just another way that we're ensuring that Horizon Power has the capability and the capacity to support growth within our region in the future.